Heyo, it's Lloyd Ruhl, aka MegaBlitzz. In today's video, we're going to be talking about something that I really haven't talked about in quite some time, which is going to be problematic cards in the Pokemon trading card game. And today, we're talking about the absolute menace, even more than Budew, Dusknoir, and even Pheasantipity EX. I'm talking about a problem that I feel has become a staple in so many decks in the Pokemon trading card game that it's seen play in 5 of the top 8 decks at the World Championships, and almost every single deck was playing this card that made it into the day 2 of the World Championships. And that card is going to be Munkidori. Now, Munkidori at first glance doesn't really seem like that crazy of a card. So we're going to be breaking down why Munkidori is so good. We're going to give a couple examples why, and why it's played in so many of these different decks, and hopefully you'll see the things that I'm seeing. Now, Munkidori's attack isn't really what we're trying to focus on, but we'll talk about it very briefly here. It really isn't anything to write home about. Munkidori's attack Mind Bend does 60 damage for a Psychic and a colorless energy requirement, and can make your opponent's active Pokemon confused. So, not really a lot of decks are using this Munkidori's attack. However, Gardevoir Ex does utilize it from time to time, and a couple other decks can pull it off if they need to. Decks like Dragapult, Charizard, Gholdengo, or maybe even Ho-Oh Toolbox can use the Mind Bend attack. However, the problem with Munkidori really relies within its ability, Adrena-Brain, which says once during a turn, if this Pokemon has any dark energy attached, you may move up to 3 damage counters from one of your Pokemon to one of your opponent's Pokemon. So now, a lot of decks are either playing the dark energy to actually be able to pull off this Adrena-Brain ability, or just playing a luminous energy, which says as long as you don't have any other special energy attached to this Pokemon, it will provide 1 energy of any energy type that you could need, essentially, right? So in Dragapult, for instance, you need a fire and a psychic energy to be able to use its Phantom Dive attack. Now, Dragapult is also playing Munkidori in their deck, so you could just play Luminous, and then boom, you have your fire or your psychic, or even the dark energy you need for Munkidori in the deck. Now, speaking of Dragapult in the meta, because the meta I feel like is just Dragapult, Gholdengo, and Gardevoir pretty much everywhere, Munkidori is being played in Dragapult, which a lot of decks are playing Munkidori to counter Dragapult. So I think it's very interesting that Dragapult is playing Munkidori, but other decks are playing Munkidori to counter Dragapult. So Dragapult plays Munkidori to counter the mirror match, which I think is kind of weird and interesting to think about from time to time. However, Munkidori's ability, once you break it down, is kind of insane. So being able to have 3 damage counters on your side is very helpful for your opponent, so they can have more damage on your Pokemon to take prizes quicker and your Pokemon are damaged. Being able to take those 3 damage counters from your Pokemon and then move them to your opponent's side, not only are you getting free damage on your opponent's side, but also you're healing your Pokemon in the process because of this one little monkey. Now, for example, why this is actually insane in the Pokemon trading card game, Gholdengo EX has 260 hit points. If I have a active Gholdengo EX and a benched Gholdengo EX, they both have 260 hit points. If my opponent is playing Dragapult and they use Phantom Dive and hit my active Gholdengo for 200 and then place 6 damage counters on my benched Gholdengo EX, they can then the next turn go Boss's Orders, pull up the other Gholdengo, and then punch that one for 200 and then place 6 damage counters on the other Gholdengo, taking 4 prize cards in a single turn. Now, Gholdengo is playing Munkidori for this very specific reason. Because if I have a dark energy attached, I could just Adrena-Brain, moving 3 of those damage counters to my opponent's Dragapult EX, stopping the 4 prize turn on the next turn, but also making it easier for my Gholdengo EX to actually take the knockout, because now I only need 6 energies instead of 7 to knock out the Dragapult EX, saving the energy for a future turn or an attach for turn. If it's at a point where we have every Gholdengo deck at least one Munkidori and 1 dark energy, you can just attach and do that for the turn, and then boom. or a lot of decks are playing Luminous, like I said, for a very similar situation. Now that's just one example where Munkidori can be used in an interaction. Now Gardevoir gets the most value out of Munkidori. Gardevoir EX's ability, Psychic Embrace, puts an energy from your discard pile, but the downside of this is that you place 2 damage counters on that Pokemon. But now it doesn't even matter because you can just load up your Gardevoir EX with 3 energies, placing 6 damage counters on your Gardevoir, and then just using 2 Adrena-Brains because, yes, you can use multiple Adrena-Brains in a turn. So you can use 4 Adrena-Brains in a perfect scenario in one turn. So you can move those 6 damage counters to, let's say, maybe an Iron Hands or a Raging Bolt EX, and then use Gardevoir's attack for 190, taking 2 prize cards. Not only are you fixing the downside of Gardevoir EX's Psychic Embrace ability, you're healing the damage because of it, and you're dealing more damage to your opponent's Pokemon. Literally fixing Gardevoir EX's entire downside of the deck, which I find is kind of crazy. So now, Munkidori also is really powerful in the Pokemon trading card game because you're able to just take free knockouts on baby Pokemon. Things like Cleffa or Badoo, because they only have 30 HP. So being able to just get a free prize card because you moved 3 damage counters from your Pokemon to one of theirs is really, really good. Now, in the Pokemon trading card game, it has gotten to a point now where there are certain cards that will just knock out themselves, place damage counters, and then your opponent will take a prize card. I'm talking about Dusknoir. So Dusknoir has the ability Curse Blast, where you put 13 damage counters on your opponent's Pokemon, blah, 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 and then your opponent will take a prize card because the Dusknoir gets knocked out. So you're placing damage counters to a high degree, but your opponent's getting the upside of getting a prize card. So they're getting closer to winning. However, Munkidori just does this on a smaller scale while healing the Pokemon and damaging your opponent's Pokemon, and they don't even get to take a prize card. If anything, you could actually take a prize card. So now you could just knock out the Munkidori with an attack, or even better yet, you could even just Curse Blast the Munkidori, and you both will take a prize card, and then everything is even Steven. However, that's not always the case. The new world champ Riley Mckay won the world championships with Gardevoir EX, playing 4 Munkidori in their deck, proving that the card is so strong that you can just win because you are moving so many damage counters to your opponent's Pokemon, being able to get cheeky knockouts with Screamtail because of it, or Fluttermane on because of it, and it's kind of crazy. Even the former world champ Fernando Fuentes played a Blissey EX deck where it used 4 Munkidori for the same exact reason, just to Adrena-Brain, because Blissey EX has an ability called Happy Switch, saying once during your turn you may move a basic energy from one of your Pokemon to another one of your Pokemon. You can do this as many times as you want. So being able to attach 1 dark energy for turn and then just moving it to 4 of your Munkidoris, being able to get potentially at most 12 damage counters moved from your Pokemon to your opponent's Pokemon and then taking a knockout is really, really good. We even have other decks in the format, like Grimmsnarl EX in the Frostlass package. Being able to damage your own Munkidoris or other Pokemon that you have, like your Grimmsnarl EX, and then just move the damage counters to your opponent's Pokemon for extra damage. This deck also plays 4 Munkidori. Are you seeing a pattern? World champ Riley Mckay, 4 Munkidori. Former world champ Fernando Cifuentes, 4 Munkidori. Every Grimmsnarl Frostlass deck, 4 Munkidori. I think you see the pattern. By the way, these are all just lists from the 2025 Pokemon TCG World Championships. One last thing I want to mention about Munkidori that I feel like is kind of insane is that the card came out of a set which was Shrouded Fable. This set is packed full of insanely broken cards, like Munkidori, Bezendipity EX, which I made a video about as well, like Duskull, Dusclops, and the Dusknoir package, which I also made a video about, but other really powerful cards in that set, like the Grass Galvantula for the Joltik box deck, the Genesect that shuts off A-Spec cards to be played from your hand, the Keyround that almost killed Lost Box altogether, Pecharunt EX, which as a Snorlax stall player was my worst nightmare to see. I don't know, I just feel like Shrouded Fable gave us more than we thought, which I think is kind of crazy. I feel like it could be one of the most powerful Pokemon TCG sets printed in the current era. So I just want to quickly recap and just kind of finish up my problems and my thoughts about Munkidori. Adrena-Brain is able to fix numbers on your own Pokemon, but also helping you or allowing free knockouts on your opponent's Pokemon. Being able to just have that healing and more damage is absolutely wild. And the fact that it's so flexible that can just be slotted into any deck that's playing at least one dark energy or one luminous energy is kind of insane. You can even just play a legacy energy in the deck and it does the same thing. And when they knock it out, they don't even get to take a prize card. So you could just do that if you really wanted to. But I think Munkidori is a bit more than that. I think the fact that you can just get it off of a nest ball or an artisan or any sort of search mechanic of a Pokemon and then just crispin the energy to it and being able to still have an attach for turn is really crazy to me. The fact that the card is just so flexible, going into so many different decks to literally help against Dragapult matchups or other matchups in general, that it's even getting played in the decks you're trying to counter because it's so strong. Munkidori has seen probably the most play that I think I've ever seen. At first, when the card came out, I didn't really care too much, but now as things have progressed and Gardevoir has won the World Championships and Dragapult came in second and all these decks are popping up and every single one of them is playing Munkidori, there's only a couple decks that aren't really playing Munkidori. Raging Bull EX, the Eevee Toolbox deck, and maybe a couple others. But most other decks are playing at least one Munkidori, or like I said in some other cases, 4 Munkidoris, because the card is literally that good. I think that is something that's kind of crazy to me. The fact that Munkidori can just swing the game into this huge momentum favor of you or your opponent just because of 3 damage counters, I feel like makes it so worth it to have in so many different decks and so powerful. Now, I'm just going to keep playing Munkidori in my deck. I don't hate the card that much. However, I can't acknowledge when a card is actually insane and a problem or is just broken. So that's going to do it all for today's video. Let me know down in the comments below what your guys' thoughts about Munkidori is. Do you think it's this broken as I'm making it out to be, or am I just absolutely crazy? I genuinely think that Munkidori is just insane. But if you've enjoyed the content I've been making so far on the channel, or even enjoyed this video, consider giving this video a thumbs up and subscribing to the channel as well, because we're getting real close to 1K subs and it costs you guys nothing, but it means the world to me. So I'll see you all in the next one. Peace!